Forgotten City, Chapter 14. Fion's foot twitched. Fion, Asha cried. She leaned closer to him, pushing a lock of hair from his brow. Fion, can you hear me? Then Fion's lips parted and he let out a moan. A smile exploded across Asha's face. Fion, we're right here. Don't try to move. But Fion did anyway, opening his eyes and rolling onto his side. He half fell off the table, but Asha rescued him. Stay put, she said. Fion was blinking, looking left and right, then focusing on Asha. Kobe saved you, she said. My dad saved you, said Kobe, smiling down. We're at his lab at the university. Fion managed to sit, dangling his legs over the side of the table. He mimicked drinking. Kobe fished his canteen out and handed it to Fion, who drank deeply. Afterward, he wiped his mouth. He looked at them both. Thank you, he said out loud, making Kobe pull back in surprise. Asha laughed. She grabbed him in a fierce hug. I thought I'd lost you. Fion grinned. He petted the wolf that was nuzzling him. Just rest up for a few minutes, said Kobe. I've got to see if there are any clues about where my dad is. He spotted some sealing tape and tossed it to Asha. Would you mind sealing the door? Asha nodded. You think your dad made it here? I hope so. Kobe scanned the room. There was a notebook on the lab bench with a pen beside it. Kobe opened it to look and skipped to the most recent page, hoping to find a date that might tell him when his dad was last here. Apart from a few scribbles of various chemical equations and some complex molecular diagrams, there was nothing to help. The lab was adjoined by an office. The door was open and inside was a desk, bookshelves, and a couch with a sleeping bag rolled at one end. The trash can held some empty cans of food, but it was hard to tell when they might have been eaten. Kobe imagined his dad at the desk, working as he ate. There was an empty syringe in the trash can, too. But it was the photo on the desk that drew his attention. His dad looking so young, standing shoulder to shoulder with three others. One was an older man in a black gown, and the other two, along with Kobe's father, wore mortarboard hats and clutched rolled up scrolls of paper. Graduation day. Maybe the old guy was a professor. Kobe picked the photo up carefully to look closer. It had to be pre-waste. The four people in the image stood on the grassy shore of some lake or river in front of a huge modern multi-story mansion surrounded by exotic flowers and trees. The photo had been taken from a jetty, just visible extending through the water in the foreground. The older professor was a large man with thick gray hair and a trimmed beard. He wore spectacles, and his head was drawn back in a hearty laugh. One of the students beside Kobe's dad was a tall and sallow-cheeked man with dark auburn hair. He had his arm over Kobe's dad's shoulder and smiled at the camera. Kobe's dad was looking sideways at the woman beside him. Kobe felt an odd prickle across his skin. His dad had never wanted to talk about Kobe's mother, clamming up at the first mention, and after a while Kobe had learned to stop asking. Could this be her? She had straight black hair and delicate features. Kobe tried to see himself in them but couldn't. He put the frame back down, sadly. Trying to imagine life before the waste was almost impossible. The picture looked fake or like something taken on another planet. Kobe sat down in the desk chair, taking the room in. On the wall opposite were two posters with the same Grow Cycle lettering from the front door. One showed acres and acres of crops growing in neat rows. Some sort of harvesting vehicle was cutting through the center, spelling out the letters GAIA, and across the bottom of the poster were the words, Nourishing Humanity. The other poster showed the cover of a magazine called Time. It was a picture of a bearded, smiling man. His face was etched with deep lines, and spectacles were balanced on his large nose. Kobe recognized him as the older man from the graduation photo. He wore a lab coat and held up an impossibly glossy apple as if about to sink his very white teeth into it. The headline in the corner read, Professor Alan Apana. head of GrowCycle's GAIA program, reveals the hunger that drove him to solve the world's food shortage. Kobe's father had known Alan Apana, the head of GrowCycle, the man who had destroyed the world. Kobe tried to focus his whirring thoughts. In some ways, it made sense. His father had managed to survive because he had understood how to create the cleansers from Kobe's blood. He had always been reticent to talk about the past, about the waste disaster. Was that because he was involved in it? Had he worked at GrowCycle? He was young back then. He couldn't have been high up in the company. No, you're reading too much into this one photo. Apana was probably just his teacher. Kobe continued to search the room. He pulled out the desk drawers and ruffled through their contents. Apart from some stationery, there were reports of meetings, mostly dated in early 2031, which was hardly a surprise. In the bottom one, there was a bound set of pages. The cover simply read, GAIA 1.3 New Findings, Restricted, for L3 clearance personnel only. I guess that includes me now, thought Kobe. He scanned the open paragraphs. It had been compiled off-site at a location called the Park, and though Kobe was only skimming, certain words stood out. Preliminary findings, worrying trends in preliminary and secondary samples, unexpected side effects in organic samples, rapid growth combined with potent mutagenesis. Kobe looked up to check on Asha and Fion. They were sitting together, stroking the wolf, which was lifting first one paw, then the other, as if obeying direct commands. Fion was actually laughing. Kobe returned to the report, forcing himself to read more slowly and take it all in. He didn't understand some of the language, but the meaning was quite clear. A scientific team, their signatures listed at the bottom of the report, was carrying out research into the GAIA program. Kobe scanned the signatures quickly, but thankfully, his father's name, John Hales, wasn't among them. Kobe found himself shaking his head in dismay at the reasoned scientific tone. It was like no one saw the catastrophe coming. There was evidence that the fertilizer was mutagenic, increasing its effectiveness but also bringing the risk of toxicity. A couple of scientists had already fallen ill after accidental exposure. The report ended with 3 recommendations. The immediate suspension of GAIA 1.3 testing until further evaluations can be carried out. Delay in testing at the park site. An urgent meeting with the PR and communication teams at GrowCycle. A voice made him look up. Asha was standing in the door. He hadn't even heard her approach. Sorry. You were in another world, I said. Anything interesting? I was in the past, thought Kobe. Kobe closed the report. Did you find any leads on your dad? Asked Asha softly. Kobe pushed himself to his feet, looking at the cans in the trash, and then rolled up sleeping bag. He felt a sharp stab of emptiness. It was almost a month now, and he hadn't come across a single clue his dad was alive. No. He heard a sudden growl from the other room in a man's voice. Then Fion yelped. Asha turned on her heel, and they both rushed in. Kobe looked around in confusion, searching for the source of the voice, heart thudding in expectation. But all he saw was the wolf, hackles up and snarling. Fion was pressed against the wall. There was a disembodied head sitting on the workbench being projected from a shoe-sized black box. It flickered in and out of resolution, and though it was talking, the words were sporadic and out of time with the movement of his lips. Careful, John. No, we shouldn't. On to us. We're supposed to be scientists, right? Kobe edged nearer. He had no idea who the man was. You have to send more, John. Test subjects' reactions are remarkable. If it turns out to be, we've won. Please, as soon as you can. It was all worth it. The face came into sharper focus, and then Kobe froze. He had seen it in the other room. The head belonged to the gangly graduate standing beside his father. Only now the man was much older. with salt and pepper hair and a gaunt look. So many thoughts and feelings tangled in his mind, such deep confusion, but the foremost was betrayal. The man in the hologram was talking to his father. He was calling him John, and that meant one thing. Dad's been lying to me. He said there was no one else, and he knew it wasn't true. It's all right, said Asha to Fionn. You haven't done anything wrong. She glanced at Kobe. Who is that man? Kobe couldn't produce words. He stared at the flickering projection. The man's face was frozen in urgency, in the middle of sharing something with Kobe's father that Kobe had been excluded from. It's a coincidence, he tried to tell himself. The drone is old. It could be a recording. John could be anyone. But Kobe's brain was too rational, too well trained to take stock, add up the probabilities, and draw logical conclusions for him to believe it. There has to be a reason, Komi murmured. John's your dad, right? Said Asha. She didn't seem to get the significance of what she was saying. John's my dad, Kobe echoed, hoping it might give him some form of comfort, but he just sounded desperate. Memories flashed through his mind. All the times his dad could have told him the truth, all the times he lied instead. The secret trips to the lab. He told me I was too young to come, but that wasn't the reason he left me behind. He didn't want me to see this. Asha's probably right about the vitamin pills, too. He didn't want me to sense other people. It all seemed to fill Kobe up, too overwhelming to contain. He fell back into a seat at the desk, heart vibrating so much he felt his body might shatter. He didn't trust me. Is that it? Because I'm just a kid. Kobe wanted to believe that was the reason. His father had just wanted to protect him, not give him false hope. But Kobe looked up at Asha and Fionn, and their faces cast with pity, and thought about the times he had asked his father about the other survivors like them. Kobe had longed to find others. He suggested over and over that they search, improve the radio receiver, build a smoke fire somewhere they could hide from the snatchers, and always his dad had refused. It's just us, Kobe. It's me and you. Focus on that. How did you make it play the message, Fionn? Kobe tried to speak slowly, calmly, but the words wavered. I want to hear the whole thing. Fionn stepped forward tentatively and passed a hand over the device. The head scrambled and reset. It played back with the same interference. In trouble, an intelligence leak. Change locations just to be... Don't know. Be careful, John. No, we shouldn't. Onto us. We're supposed to be scientists, right? Kobe let it play, listening intently, hoping to glean some further clues. The hollow message went on to describe a new batch of anti-waste drugs that Kobe's dad was sending out. Kobe thought back to the vials of waste cleanser in the fridge back at the school. His dad had developed them from samples of Kobe's blood. But where was he sending them? If Kobe had just known, he would have been happy to help. It didn't make any sense. Why didn't he tell me the truth? What possible reason did he have to lie? And what did this message have to do with his disappearing? Maybe your dad was in touch with Claus, said Asha hopefully. This guy says he's a scientist, and it sounds like they were working on a waste cure. Kobe listened a third time. Test subjects? Dad was sending vials of his waste cleanser to some sort of test site, somewhere a drone could get to. But it sounded like something underhanded. They were worried about getting caught. In among the shock, the hurt, Kobe wondered what exactly his dad was involved in. Kobe noticed a folder resting on the table near the drone and recognized his father's handwriting. The title of the folder was 2.0, written in bold, typed font. At the top of the folder, his dad had scrawled, Other testing, full cure, part 2, send to Alex. The familiar handwriting made Kobe's father's deceit feel more real, more personal. A well of emotion rose suddenly, threatening to drown Kobe from the inside. How could he have done this to me? I need some time to think, he said quietly to Asha. No one answered, and as Kobe stood and turned, he heard the now familiar pneumatic hiss of the dart gun. He felt a thump in his midriff and saw the dart protruding from his clothes. What? Asha was standing there, lowering the weapon. Sorry, Kobe, she said, and it sounded like she truly meant it.